April Fool! Got you!
April Fool yourself.
Someone's running! Jimmy! Look, mister, Jimmy's drowning.
It's okay, mister. Harry's going to him. Harry will get him. Harry's the best swimmer.
Take it easy, boy. Take it easy, boy. Plenty of time. Keep it up. That's right. That's right. Well done. Now, all of you into the water and give a hand. Bring him up on the bank. That's it. That's it. Get me my coat. Up, of course, not my wife for blanket. You like quiet. I'll give you something to buck you up later. Suppose I hadn't been here. What would you have done when you got him out? Not much good saving a chap if you can't keep him alive when you get him ashore. Don't they teach you first aid? Aren't any of you scouts even? Well, you'll have to come along. Your school afterwards and teach you to be your own doctor.
Yes, yes. Get a medal, won't you, mister?
Yes, I'll see you get the medal. So I got the headmaster's permission to give a few lectures and a lot of practice demonstration. Taught them about wounds, fractures, burns, shock, and artificial respiration. Loosen any tight clothing, face down, hands above head, hands on back, thumbs nearly touching, elbows stiff. You're pressing air, perhaps water, out of the lungs. Say 21, 22, smartly back, 21, 22, 23, and so on. Those kids were dead keen to learn, and many of them were soon up to dealing with most simple things. Yes, I made a whole bunch of useful pals out of that April Fool incident. My main message was that the smallest injury can cause trouble if left uncared for. Wash wounds as soon as you can, and as first aid, cover them with a bandage, or better, with some adhesive dressing. As an example, I showed them my scar, which wasn't a war wound, but only the result of a splinter when I was a boy, which stayed in and festered because I didn't take care of it.
First aid booklet! First aid booklet!
Harry was fairly mobbed for copies of the first aid booklet I'd brought along to distribute. There weren't nearly enough to go round. But it was exciting to see how keen they were. Then I offered a little prize for the best letter telling of a first aid experience of their own, what they did about it, and so on. Of course, it would be too bad for those who hadn't the luck to come across any real accidents, so they could invent one if it was good enough and qualify just the same, handicapped by age. I get lots of letters every day, of course, but after that the postman had to work overtime with these prize entries, which the head had allowed me to set as homework. Many of them were very good indeed. These were the best, I think. From Jackie Evans, aged 14 and a half.
Dear sir, I have to report a case of first aid. Me and my pals were having our usual game of football on the bomb side after school. We used a tennis ball, not a football, because the ground is pretty rough round there, and so was our game too. Ginger had the ball and chased up a bank after it and fell down shouting, "Ow!" They went to move him, but he said his foot hurt. So I called out to leave him still while I got my coat, which is the goal post. One of the chaps said Ginger's foot was broken, but it seemed okay to me. But his ankle was getting puffed up like you said a sprain would. You said to use a cold water bandage at first on a sprain, so I thought I'd use my scarf. But I decided to use Ginger's as it was his ankle, so I found some rainwater and dipped it in. I ran over with it and got it fixed round him fairly tight. It seemed to make him quite a bit more comfortable. The other said it was a lot of fuss, it was only a sprain. But I remember what was in the booklet, and I had the same shorts on, so there it was in the pocket, and I showed them. It said to treat all sprains like fractures for fear. Well, that meant we had to make a stretcher somehow, and there's a lot of muck that's been dumped on that bomb site. So we soon found an old cupboard door that might do. It was the best thing we could find, so we tipped the dirt off to make it clean, and took it round to Ginger and put it down beside him. Then we slid him on pretty careful, just in case he had bust one of those little bones you told us about in his ankle. But it wasn't so far to your place, so we agreed we'd carry him round. We came round to you as quick as we could, and were lucky enough to catch you just going out. You know the rest of the story as well as I do, sir, but I had to tell it all the same because it's for the prize. So you looked at it and said nothing was broken, only sprained, and it needed support for the time being. Then you took some wide strapping and strapped Ginger up right down his foot to well above the ankle, round and round. And the end of it was, Ginger was able to walk home. Well, obble.
Now here's another good one. This is from Johnny James, age 12.
Dear Doctor, my dad went in the garden Saturday when Mum was down the shops, and he cut his finger horrid. He said something, and I said, well, it's no good letting on like that and letting germs get in. Dad said it was too small, but he'd been digging in manure, so I tells him what you said about dirt and that giving us lockjaw. Then Dad looks all queer, but I sees he's starting to take notice of what I says, and he goes over and puts it under the hose, what he has for cabbages. He didn't wash it much. And then he wants to put his dirty handkerchief on it, but I says no, and ran to the larder where Mum keeps her medicine and that. I found the tin of sticky bandage stuff in the shelf, and I comes back quick with a clean towel as well. Then I must wash my hands too to do the job proper. Well, I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up, and this is a bit of practice. So I gets Dad to hold the tin, and takes out the sticky bandage, and I puts it on Dad's finger, and takes care not to touch his cut and all that bit of dressing stuck in the middle. Dad says he can't work trussed up like that, but I told him just try, and of course he could.
This one is from a little girl, Mary Gordon, aged 11.
Dear Mr. Doctor, me and Bobby and Tom went on the common to the explorers. We were lost, so Tom went up a tree to take bearings. We had got some sticks for a fire ready to cook and scare wild animals in case night came on. And Bobby went and fetched the matches he had pinched from Father and set it alight. There weren't any wild animals, but it blazed up and put the wind up Tom, and I could see he was getting frightened. And he fell, and I screamed, and there he was on the ground, but he didn't yell and lay still. So I sent Bobby for help, because we were frightened, and you had said never to deal with an accident when someone was knocked out. I saw this was serious, like the things you said a doctor must always see to. I wrapped Tom up warm, and his pulse was beating, and his collar was open anyhow. Then I just had to wait, and it seemed an age. At last I saw an ambulance coming. They were all out at home, but Bobby had told Mrs. Smith next door, and she told the ambulance to come. Tom got quite better, thank you, but they took him for an x-ray first.
And lastly, we have Eileen Kemp, aged 15.
Dear Doctor, my brother Benny is a problem child. He thinks he doesn't need looking after, especially by me. He thinks he is tough because he rides first reserve for the Tigers, but Mum is in hospital, and I look after the family. I attended all your first aid meetings, and it's just as well I did, because Benny needed my help all right, the afternoon I'm talking about, when they were having the final practice for the big meeting next Saturday. They were all dead keen to do their best in getting the team. That Lily Peters was watching the boys, and Benny kept showing off dreadful, trying to edge the other chaps in the side when he passed her. I felt sure something was going to happen, and it did. He came off a shocking bang. He tore his trousers open, and I could see the cinders had taken all the skin off his knees, and it was bleeding and dirty. He didn't blood, though, and I was proud inside. I made him come straight home with his silly old bike, and told the kids to come too. It hurt him when I cleaned him up, but I washed his knee first before I put on 2 bits of sticky plaster to cover where there were open places. I ticked him off properly. It was daft the way he'd been going on, and I told him, "You're just a big show-off."
It was a great day, that at the school. Harry was being presented with the bronze medal for life-saving for fetching that youngster out of the river. Then the time came for the little prize I'd promised, but I had to give 4. I couldn't choose between the letters of those kids. Each had had the right idea, giving first aid at once, not waiting for someone else to do something. They all 4 deserved them.
Super.
I call for 3 cheers for our doctor. Yes, he's going to be our new school doctor here, if you have him.
That was prize enough for this old April fool.